everyone, how's it going? For today's video, let's take an up-close and personal in-depth look at the 1987 Mazda RX-7 Turbo 2. And this is going to be a detailed, in-depth review of the RX-7. We'll start right up, show the engine, get an exhaust clip and cover the performance data, and show you a bunch of the unique aspects of both the interior as well as exterior. And before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to extend a big thanks and special shout out to Cosmo Motors located in Hickory, North Carolina for providing the RX-7 featured in today's in-depth review. For more information on their dealership, including contact info and current inventory, feel free to check out their website provided in the description box below. And so, without further ado, let's go ahead and start her up, let her run. The original exterior color of this RX-7 is known as pure red and comes with the upgraded twill two-tone cloth upholstery with high-back sport bucket seats and rib pattern across the middle. The second generation RX-7 features rack and pinion steering with available electronic variable power assist depending on which trim level you went with. It remained an optional feature for the Turbo and not found on this example. By receiving sensor inputs that monitor vehicle speed, steering angle, and lateral G-forces, EPS firms up the steering at higher speeds while being more relaxed and easy to maneuver at low speeds. It's routed through a 2-spoke leather-wrapped steering wheel with grip bolsters at 10 and 2. Across the naturally aspirated RX-7 lineup, you had the option of 2 transmissions, either a standard 5-speed manual for better fuel economy or a 4-speed automatic for better convenience that also featured electronic overdrive. On the other hand, the Turbo, being a more performance-oriented driver's car, it came only with a 5-speed manual gearbox, but it was a more robust unit than the one used in the standard naturally aspirated car. It also featured a limited slip differential out back, finished off with a leather-wrapped shift boot. And so, we have flip on the pop-up headlamps, as well as the hazards. Both the windows are powered. And we'll go ahead and check out the exterior. In 1986, Mazda launched the second generation of its highly acclaimed rotary-powered sports car, the RX-7. All new from the ground up, the Series FC RX-7 was a far more refined and competent offering than its predecessor, which was internally known as the FB. Numerous changes and advancements are developed to really hone in on the efforts of creating the ideal sports car, one that would deliver a level of driving dynamics comparable to higher-end sports cars at a relatively low price point. In 1987, Mazda introduced the RX-7 Turbo 2, which really took performance to the next level. While the name may be a bit confusing, Turbo 2 simply refers to the second turbo rotary engine, as the first generation was also offered in turbo form but only in Japan. Aside from being slightly wider and taller, the size was still comparable to the FB, although curb weight did increase a good bit. With an original MSRP starting around $19,300, the Turbo 2 represented the top of the RX-7 lineup, right alongside the luxury-oriented GXL. After the FB's long 7-year production stretch, Mazda completely re-engineered every component of the FC RX-7 to meet an even higher level of standards. Recirculating ball steering gave way to rack and pinion, a live rear axle gave way to modern independent suspension with dynamic rear wheel steering, and the rear drum brakes gave way to discs. The Turbo 2 was awarded Motor Trend's Import Car of the Year in 1986. The sleek shape was quite aerodynamic, reminiscent of the Porsche 924 and 944, combining a tapered nose and rounded rear hatch. The body lines are smooth and modern for its time, with minimal creases and sharp points. Flush-matted side glass and aero-inspired mirrors help reduce turbulence down the body, which also helps quieten the interior. In addition to a flush-mounted 64-degree windshield, the one-piece rear hatch incorporates wraparound glass and is angled at 18.5 degrees, maximizing airflow over the top and across the rear of the car. All in all, this leads to an impressive drag coefficient of just 0.31, or as low as 0.29 thanks to the added aerodynamic components when you opt for the RX-7 Sport package. Rear-end lift is also reduced. Due to the compact size of the rotary engine, Mazda was able to place the engine behind the front axle, otherwise known as a midship layout, allowing the nose to be lower and leading to a better balanced vehicle. The calling card for the Turbo 2 is the prominent offset hood scoop, which feeds a ton of cool air to the top-mounted air-to-air intercooler, reducing the charge air temperatures for more efficient combustion. The front fascia, in addition to a center-mounted vent for the radiator, incorporates two side inlets that provide extra air to cool the front brakes. Below the pop-up headlamps are a set of small windows that allow you to flash your lights during the daytime. Across the sides, the body is characterized by a single defining body line that splices the fenders and the single-panel doors. Out back, a large wiper provides the necessary clearing during inclement weather, while flush tail lamps continue the streamlined look. Twin exhaust outlets in the lower fascia finish it all off with appropriate flair. This example actually has an aftermarket exhaust. Other optional custom touches could be had, including a ground effects package with lower front and rear fascias, not to mention side skirts. You can also opt for a roof band accent out back, rear spoiler, and window louvers over the rear window for extra interior sun protection. The Turbo came with the largest wheel and tire package you could get for the RX-7 at the time, consisting of 16 by 7 inch painted alloys wrapped in 205/55 high-performance tires, able to hold up to 0.86 g of lateral acceleration. In addition to both the Sport and GXL trims, the Turbo also benefited from upgraded brakes. Not only were they larger in diameter than the base brakes, but they also benefited overall performance and decreased fade with repeated use thanks to the addition of ventilated rear disc brakes, which are solid on the base and luxury trims. Consisting of 10.9-inch discs in front with Meteor 4-piston aluminum calipers and 10.75-inch discs in the rear with single-piston floating calipers. They were able to bring the RX-7 to a stop from 60 miles an hour and 135 feet. As far as the suspension, the RX-7 features independent McPherson struts and lower A-arms in front with coil springs and a 24mm anti-roll bar. Special double-action bushings resist lateral forces for a more direct steering feel while working to dampen road imperfections. Its lower center of gravity, wide track stance, front and rear stabilizer bars, and near-perfect weight balance also do wonders for handling. The rear multi-link semi-trailing type rear suspension with coil springs and a 14mm stabilizer bar benefits from Mazda's new dynamic tracking suspension system, which gives the RX-7 a form of rear wheel steering to help direct you through tight turns with greater agility and precision. The unique tri-axle floating hubs provide the added toe control needed to turn the rear wheels, varying from toe out and neutral to toe in. These actions are done automatically with no effort from the driver. It's all based on lateral G-forces the car is experiencing, beginning to work when lateral acceleration exceeds 0.4 G. Separate differential and suspension mountings create synergy between the components by limiting any unnecessary interactions which could negatively alter handling response. Extra benefits are also seen with the addition of lateral links and special camber control arms with offset linkage, which modifies the suspension geometry, helping maintain rear-wheel traction control through both corners and over bumps by keeping more rubber to the ground whenever possible. The second generation RX-7 was powered by Mazda's 13B twin-rotor power plant, a small engine that packed big power for the time. Displacing just 1.3 liters, the naturally aspirated 13B produced 146 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 138 pound-feet of torque at 3,500 RPM. With the Turbo 2, you get a significant bump in performance thanks to a two-stage turbocharger, putting out 182 horsepower and 183 pound-feet of torque. It featured electronic fuel injection and a compression ratio of 8.5 to 1. This means the RX-7 Turbo could achieve 60 miles an hour in 6.7 seconds, a top speed of 142 miles an hour, and pass the quarter mile in 15.2 seconds at 91.8 miles an hour. A notable improvement over the naturally aspirated, which was rated at 8 seconds to 60, and a 16.1 second quarter mile at 86.7 miles per hour. I highly suggest searching YouTube or articles on how rotary engines work, as it's much easier to understand with a visual aid. In short, a rotary engine uses triangular rotors that spin around an output shaft within a main housing. All three tips of the triangle are kept in contact with the housing, creating three volumes of air as the rotors spin. It draws air in for the first cycle, combusts it in the second, and expels the gases in the third cycle, all within a single contained system. Compared to conventional engine design, a rotary design has no pistons or cylinders. It also doesn't have any connecting rods, camshafts, or valves, allowing for a relatively simple and very compact design by nature. For example, a twin rotor engine only has three main components: the two rotors and an output shaft. Rotary engines are also well known for smooth power delivery and idle, particularly because the rotors spin at a third of the output shaft speed. The only downside is a slight penalty in fuel economy when compared to a piston engine of similar displacement, largely due to the rotary design as it's less thermodynamically efficient. As far as fuel economy, the RX-7 carries a 16.6 gallon tank and requires premium gas. EPA estimates for the Turbo 2 range between 17 miles to a gallon in the city and 23 on the highway. In addition to the Turbo's added performance, you also receive just about every option available at the time as standard equipment, including a premium audio system, extra plush cup pile carpeting, power windows, and a power sunroof. As feature-laden as it was, the Turbo still sat on the sportier side compared to the luxurious GXL model, which was set apart by unique add-ons such as multi-contour seats, upgraded fabrics, and optional leather upholstery for both the seats and door inserts. Build quality respective to 1987 is impressive. I was surprised by the vast amount of soft padding Mazda used across the doors and the dash, making it feel much more premium than you would expect. There's even faux stitching across the doors, dash, and glove box cover. Your power windows are located on the door, in addition to a bit of storage on the bottom panel. The power mirrors are located in the center console, adjacent to the optional security system indicator. All RX-7s for 1987, aside from the GXL, featured these high-back sport bucket seats, but the type of cloth material varied between the trim levels. The Turbo came with this higher quality twill upholstery with two-tone dark and light gray portions and ribbed pattern with cloth piping across the edges. You don't have any additional lumbar or independent headrests as those features were reserved for the GXL, but it does offer enough adjustments and support both across your back and laterally to make it easy to find a comfortable driving position. While kind of a rare option, the RX-7 could be ordered in a 2+2 configuration, which replaces the rear storage cabinets for two small seats. Down below, the Mazda logo is embedded in the entry threshold, while there's plenty of all-weather protection in the premium plush carpeting, in addition to a prominent dead pedal. A tilting steering wheel was only available in the upper trim levels such as this, including the leather-wrapped wheel. You have dash-mounted audio speakers, lower vents keeping everything nice and ventilated, and plenty of padding across the dash, in addition to the sunroof.
So let's go ahead and see if she sounds.
Like we just talked about, the build quality inside the RX-7 is absolutely phenomenal, with soft padded material just about everywhere you look. The door panels are also extremely tight, especially for being an older vehicle. So we're going to shut her up. A nice solid thud. Just as a pretty good testament to the engineering that went into this back in the day. Standard equipment for the RX-7 was a 4-speaker audio system, but for a little bit more sound you can opt for this 6-speaker 100-watt audio system with 9-channel graphic equalizer down below. In addition to AM/FM radio, you also have a full Logic cassette deck with Dolby noise reduction, in addition to the option of a CD player. Soft headliner with cloth wrap visors, manually dimming rearview mirror, interior illumination, as well as your power sunroof. Just above the radio is your climate control, with easy-to-use buttons and 2 sliding mechanisms. The left-hand side corresponds to your temperature, the right-hand side is your fan speed, AC and recycling off to the top right, and your different zones and front defrost to the left. The buttons on the left-hand side of the speedometer binnacle, at the bottom is a rotary wheel that controls your intermittent wipers up front. The one right above that controls the rear wiper, and of course your hazards at the top. On either side of the steering column, there's actually 2 toggle levers. The right-hand side corresponds to your cruise control, and the left-hand side is your turn signals and high beams. And to the far left, the rotary wheel down here corresponds to your interior lighting dimmer, headlights like you saw earlier, raising and lowering the hoods of the headlights, and your rear defrost. Mounted up in the dash is a digital clock as well as all of your warning lights. And right beneath the radio you have a lighter and ashtray. Continuing down the center console, it's pretty slender, not a whole lot going on. You have your emergency brake here, a little bit of chain storage, a light for the vehicle's security system, and your power mirrors. Padded armrest here gives way to a little bit of storage, lined in felt, and some extra change pockets. I also love the instrument cluster, very easy to see, outlined in orange, and has plenty of accessory gauges. The left-hand side you have your oil pressure, boost pressure, vehicle temperature, as well as fuel. We'll go ahead and shut her down. And check out the rest of the vehicle. The RX-7's large wraparound glass hatch not only allowed for fantastic rearward visibility, but it opened up to quite a generous amount of cargo space, just over 19 cubic feet worth. It's all lined in soft carpeting, you have 2 rear-mounted speakers, as well as cargo tie-downs. The rear glass also features a large window defroster for those cold days. If you didn't opt for the rear seats like I talked about earlier, you get these 2 locking storage cabinets, which give you a little bit of extra secure storage. The passenger seat features the same manual adjustments that you find on the driver's seat. Just like you have on the driver's side underneath the steering column, there's also an extra air vent underneath the dash here for the passenger side, keeping everything nice and ventilated, in addition to one of your lower speaker grills. The glove box itself is locking, has a pretty decent amount of space, in addition to 2 cup holder trays. This is actually the original owner's manual. Pretty cool. And it's all lined in felt. Building upon the successes of the first-gen RX-7, the Turbo 2 paved the way for greater performance and value, wrapped up in a unique package with innovative power plant, another great chapter in a long line of fantastic Japanese sports cars of the era.
Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at the 1987 Mazda RX-7 Turbo. Be sure to stay tuned next time, there's a lot more where that came from. Take care everybody.